let's try to understand the nature of the subject called as political science. All the disciplines can be categorized into three. Some disciplines can be categorized as philosophy, some of them can be categorized as science, some of them can be categorized as arts. There always has been debate between scholars in the context of political science being what sort of discipline, the nature of discipline. So, some of the scholars consider political science as science, some of the scholars consider political science as philosophy. The reason why some of the scholars consider political science as philosophy is because initially the political science begins as political philosophy. If you see the works of Plato, if you see the works of Socrates, the nature of the subject is dealing with normative aspects of life, justice, liberty, equality, dignity. This is the reason why some of the scholars consider political science as philosophy. But later, you see the works of Machiavelli or Kautilya, who speak or who emphasize upon how political science is arts. It is a discipline of arts because if you see the works of Kautilya or Machiavelli, you would realize that political science is arts because they emphasize on the management of power, art of management of power. Certain scholars speak about how power relations has to be maintained. They try to consider political science as arts, and this discipline or this later part of this art we study as public administration. So which is why it is also considered as political science, considered as arts. So we have studied two things: why it is considered as philosophy, because it deals with normative aspects of life. Second, the works of Kautilya and Machiavelli shows that political science is arts because it deals with the management of power. Now, if you see the behavioral revolution that has happened, where behavioral political scientists emphasize that we should adopt scientific methodologies. Political theories has to go through the scientific parameters in order to make it more legitimate. So they started emphasizing on political science as science. So they wanted to make political science as science. But there are a lot of scholars who think that it is not possible to make scientific theories. It is not just possible, but it is also not desirable to make political science as science because it is going to narrow down the scope of political science. You understand? Like political science का जो scope है, it is very huge. Like we study state, we study institutions, we study legal mechanisms, we study constitutions, we study democracy, we study environment, we study feminism, we study the power relations not just outside the family, but since feminists called or claimed that the personal is political, now we study the power relations within the family as well in political science. There is a green theory. There are analytical approaches that has been developed like critical schools, feminist schools. So there is this huge scope that political science has when it comes to its nature. And if we make political science as science, it is going to reduce the scope of political science. And if we make political science a science, it is going to bring down the purpose of political science. In a similar context, there is a scholar called as Maitland. He made a remark that when he sees a political science question paper, he is not troubled with questions. There is a lot of dimensions in the question. He is still not troubled with the questions. He is actually troubled with the title called political science. Why they have mentioned it as science? According to postmodernist scholars like Foucault, who emphasize on knowledge of power, there is a scholar called as Derrida, Lyotard. All of these scholars have said that political science is a science of interpretation. They say that every theory that exists in the political science is made by a certain scholar in the interest of certain class. For example, the liberal thinkers like classical liberals, they have made so many theories in order to justify classical liberalism, in order to justify the market fundamentalism, in order to justify that the state should not intervene in the market. There was so much of exploitation that has happened because of capitalism. So there are certain scholars like Marx who has emphasized on how there should be an alternative to capitalism. So there were so many theories that was brought out by the Marxist scholars as a counter to liberal scholars. So again, this, the Marxist scholars, the scholars who have countered the liberal scholars, their theories are in the interest of worker class. Liberal scholars have been making political theories in the interest of capitalist class, the bourgeoisie. And so these are the arguments, these are basically the accusations. Whether it is real or not, it's again a matter of debate. But postmodernist scholars emphasize that this is reality and every political theory is an interpretation of certain scholar in the interest of certain class. So all of these theories or political science as a whole should be seen as a discipline of interpretation. It should not be seen as science. So there is this another scholar called as Karl Mannheim. He has done really a beautiful thing called as a sociology of knowledge. He says that every knowledge that exists in the world, it has a social context. And you need to understand the social context before understanding or judging a particular theory. Like, if you see, there was, like during the time of Machiavelli, when he brought his theories, there was so much of interference of church into politics. There was so much of intervention of church into the functioning of state. The reason why we say that every thinker is a child of his time and space is because of this. There are certain social conditions that creates or that makes a person to write something. Okay, and when there is so much of intervention that has been happening, where the church is intervening in the affairs of politics or in the affairs of people, he decides to separate church and state, right? So every knowledge has to be understood in its social context. Now there is this another scholar called as Thomas Kuhn. So he goes to an extent where he says that even science is not science. Even science has paradigms. Otherwise we would be having a flat earth. The shape of the earth initially was considered as flat. Now after that, there were so many theories that has happened, and there are a lot of scholars who came and said that the shape of the earth is not flat, it is actually spherical in shape. Now, which was later improvised and said that the shape of the earth is geoid, actually. Universe is expanding. So, science, so even science is not a science, is what he wanted to confirm. So, at the end of the day, the discipline of political science is looked as a discipline of interpretation.